Now we're in business. Yeah. Got me now? I think you got me now. Yeah. Yeah, that was my fault. Sorry. Let's grab our Twitch friends. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Stratosphere Lounge. I'm Bill Whittle. I've let the suspense build up long enough. This one was entirely my fault. I usually blame the gods of the US beheadings, but this one was entirely my fault. You see, I made a critical mistake yesterday, and that is I cleaned up the place significantly. So I had to plug in the vacuum cleaner over there, and there. Hum? Have we got a hum? Have we know? Is the sound okay? Forgot to do all kinds of things. Anyway, hopefully that's that. Anyway, here we are. So yeah, I've got just I don't know. It's exciting news for me anyway. Sure, that looks good. Okay, sounds good. All right, or it's probably as good as we're going to get here. Okay, so I got an education yesterday that was just amazing. I learned more in really in an hour last night between 7 and 8 p.m. about the business I'm trying to get into than I certainly did for my entire life prior to all of that. So I've got two things to do tonight, colonies related, and then we'll get into the questions. But yeah, I've got some. A lot of people are saying it sounds funny, like a Fender guitar and Dyna Hum on YouTube. Other people are saying it's fine. So I had a pretty good idea about how I wanted to sell this thing, and I got down talking to ChatGPT, which is really good for this kind of thing, gathering a lot of data. And my God, did I? You want to talk about? It sounds like an Amazon. I don't know what to say. Some people say it's fine. If it's distorting, there's not much I can do about it right now. And I learned so much. So let me give you a quick overview of what we're going to be doing, and then I've got a quick little thing I could use some feedback on, and then we will dive into the questions. Yeah, it's probably just the air conditioning. So, where did this thing go? Probably here. Yep. Oh my God. Okay, so what I did last night and worked on today was go away. Was to actually figure out the business model. Most people would have done that earlier, but I had saved this thing until I had some things to show. So here's let me just give you a basic idea of what's going on with the colonies, because this is really for me anyway was just a mind-blowing experience. So I'm going to read you pretty much verbatim the executive summary. It's just barely 3 pages of what the business model and the revenue stream looks like, and then you can tell me what you think. Here's what we're going to do. So I had assumed that I was going to be doing a crowdsource like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or GoFundMe or something like that. For the sake of the argument, I'm going to call that traditional crowdfunding. We're not doing no stinking traditional crowdfunding. We are doing equity crowdfunding. which means that you're not just making a contribution and then getting a sticker. They have written rules, and these rules have been in place for a while, but I didn't know that this was this easy. So I took a look at the history of the colonies, and I talked to ChatGPT and said, look, this is really what I want to do. The history of the Chosen, and Dallas's success with that. And so what I found is that this is just a much better way to go. So I'll just read it. So this is the colony's executive summary. This is a multi-tier, multi-decade, self-funding cultural universe. The Colonies is not simply a television series, it's a long-form cultural intervention designed to fill the void left by the collapse of Star Trek and Star Wars. Built on rigorous astrophysics, American founding principles, military realism, and the civilizational power of a perpetual frontier, it presents a future where the American experiment begins again across hundreds of worlds. This is not entertainment alone. It is a permanent cultural institution in the making. The dual revenue model. Number one, general revenue. Merchandise, pay it forward, see below. Video games, books, global licensing, and events. General revenue flows from Tier 1 to Tier 2 to Tier 3 to Tier 4 and on to the creators. We'll get to that in a minute. General revenue accelerates every tier's recoup. Number two is tier-related revenue. Season-specific revenue flows only to the tier that funded that season. After 120% recoupment, we split the income 50-50 between the investors and the creators until the cap, and we'll get to that below. And then there's something called Pay It Forward. Pay It Forward is a special subset of general revenue. Pay It Forward is a voluntary contribution system where viewers pay forward the cost of others watching for free. It was one of the earliest and strongest revenue sources for The Chosen. When we made the show free, revenue actually went up, said The Chosen creator Dallas Jenkins. Pay It Forward enhances reach exponentially and contributes to general revenue. So let me just do a little time out here and tell you this. I was absolutely I didn't have any idea of how we would be able to do the one thing that I thought was most important, and that is make it free for everybody to watch. If Star Trek had been behind a paywall, I would never have seen it. The four things I did for Daily Wire are behind a paywall, and no one's ever seen them either. So this entire idea is that this will be available for everyone to watch. The Chosen had an app. We'll figure out a way to get it done. But the good news is that it is going to be available to even the people that didn't make any contributions. So you're not making donations anymore, you're actually making an investment. So here's how the tier-based production and revenue structure works. So we start out with something called Tier 0. Tier 0 is not public. This will all be stuff that none of you guys will really see the details of, but essentially here's what it consists of. Tier 0, I'm calling the Founding Fathers. That'll be seven supporters, 7 individuals at $50,000 each for $350,000. I can get there. I've already got one in the bank. I'm virtually positive I get 2, and $50,000 is not a huge amount of money for the kind of legacy stuff that we're talking about. So Tier 0 is the Founding Fathers. Tier 0 funds the development of Phase 1. That'd be the AI CGI pipeline creation, early assets, world building, pitch material, script development, and executive producer oversight. It provides the labor and infrastructure necessary to prepare for Tier 1. So the structure is, it's a simple development loan, 120% repayment from the first incoming general revenue. It's repaid before all other tiers, no revenue sharing, no equity, no dilution. It's an internal only peer, and it's outside the public waterfall. The waterfall is the idea that money goes to Tier 1, and then when Tier 1 fills up, it goes to Tier 2, and it fills up the general revenues Tier 3, and so on and so on and so on. So the main feature for this is cultural honor. The 7 members of Tier 0 are going to be forever known as the Founding Fathers of the Colonies, and they receive on-screen credit as a founding father on every production, episode, game, book, app, and creative work related to the colonies into perpetuity. So I go out to, well, I've got 1 out of 7, so I need 6 more. 50 grand each. They get their money back first from general revenues. They get 120% of what they put in, at which point they're out, and their names are on everything from that point forward. Okay? Then we get to, that's in order for me to start the public crowdsourcing. So tiers 1 through 4 is equity crowdfunding structure. Beginning with tier 1, the Colonies follows an equity crowdfunding model adapted from The Chosen. Each tier receives, so anybody who makes a donation, an investment, you want to, I don't know if there's a limit. Let's say for the sake of the argument, a nice easy number. Let's say you want to invest $100. You get into the tier 1 pool. You get $120 back before anybody makes any money, before the studio makes any money. Once you get your 120% recoupment, then you split the revenues for tier 1 50-50 with the creators until you get 3 times what you put into it. So your total return, if everything fills up, will be 300%. And once you get 3 times what you put into it, that's the end of the revenue for you for that investment in that tier. So tier 1 is the pilot episode, and the target for that is $600,000. Tier 1 gets paid because the pilot is included as episode 1 of season 1. Tier 1 receives its revenue through tier-related revenue generated by the Tier 2 Season 1 licensing Blu-rays, so I'll get to that. So Tier 2 is Season 1. That's going to be a raised target of $4 to $6 million. Everybody who comes in, let's say you come in on Tier 2, right? You didn't want to invest in the pilot, thought it was too risky, but we do the pilot episode, and you like the pilot, and everybody likes the pilot, so now we're going out after $4 to $5 million to do the whole of season 1. So you put $100 in for season 1, which is tier 2. Your money sits there probably for 12 to 24 months, maybe. Although general revenue, things like hats and T-shirts, and all of this ancillary stuff, that's coming in immediately. If you put in $100, when you get to $120, you get your $120 back, and then you get 50% of the tier-related revenues until you get to twice the amount of money you put in. The pilot people get 3 times the amount of money they put in because they get they have a higher risk. But everything from this point forward is 120% of your money back, at which point, for that tier, we split the revenues 50-50 until the investors get twice their money back, at which point all of the revenues for that tier comes to the studio. And same thing for tier 3 and so on. So the cool thing about this is if we get to season 3, which would be tier 4, season 3, for another $4 million, somewhere around there, we will be making enough money to have closed out the entire waterfall. Everybody in all of the tiers, in order, will have gotten their investment back plus 20%, and they will have gotten double their money back, except for the tier 1 people who get triple their money back. When all of those slots have been filled, then 100% of the revenues come to the studio. And the reason that this is important is we took a look at it, and we think that if we do 4 raises, 600 grand, 5 million, 5 million, 5 million, by the time we have 3 seasons, we will have enough revenue so that we won't have to do any more equity crowdfunding. We will be making enough money as a studio to be able to self-fund season 4 and self-fund season 5. And as long as we maintain fiscal discipline, we will be able to produce the show on our own without having to get any external money. And as that studio bank account grows, then we can do things like Big Bat Problems and all these other things. So it is a self-perpetuating money printing machine, because the end game is a self-funding studio. And the way it's written is, as the tier revenue grows and the general revenue accelerates and production costs continue to fall, I'm in a business where this gets cheaper every year because the software gets more sophisticated. The tier revenue begins delivering studio profit on a per season basis. So if we sell season 1 and you're invested in season 3, but if we sell season 1, then the people that are in on season 1 get the revenue stream from season 1. It's when I diagram it out, it's actually a lot more simple than it sounds. But basically, that's the plan. So what that means is that you will be investors. Let me see if Merchant's got it. So tier 0 equals 120% plus producer credit. No, we're not going to do producer credit. Yes, right. Tier 0. You guys don't see tier 0. Tier 0 happens behind the scenes. That's between me and 7 individuals, but you get it. And then when you get in on, if you get in on the pilot, you get a 3 times your money back. If you get in on the first season, of which the pilot is a part, you only get 2 times your money back. And we mean to keep doing this forever and ever and ever. Amen. I don't want to do. See, the thing about something like the Chosen is they finished season 3, let's say, and then they had a break, and people get older and they take time out and they all go home and they get a rest and everything. We don't have sets, props, costumes, any of that stuff. We don't have to do any of those things. And what that means is as this stuff gets better and better, our costs actually go down. There's no overhead. We're not paying a dime in perks, right? We're not having to buy T-shirts and deliver them. We're not having to. If you sign up for $50, we give you a hat. You can buy a hat, but the main thing is that it's free. So let me just give you the bottom line numbers. We don't need a render farm. All this stuff is rendered online. Catering is at a minimum, as Roger Ramjet says. No union walkouts, no travel expenses, nothing. If I could get Gary Sinise to play, as an example, to play a recurring character, Gary Sinise does not need to get on a plane and fly from Franklin, Tennessee to Los Angeles. He can read his lines into the iPhone, and it will map it onto a character. And if he's got a scene with somebody else, then we just set up a Zoom call and they do the lines into it. It's absolutely amazing. Don Vickery says, "Who buys the seasons?" That is going to depend. We don't know yet. What the Chosen did was they had it available to everybody on the app, and I don't know if it showed up on Hulu or whatever. I know where it is now, and that's on Amazon Prime. So Kelly Carlson is definitely a part of this, and so revenues will come in from somewhere. If this thing is looking as good as I believe it will, then it's going somewhere, and then off we go. So I've got Gary Sinise, John Voight, and Mike Rowe. We'll have voice actors, not just voice actors. We can save a lot of money for most of the people, because what we really need are actors, and they don't have to be famous faces, because we can map them onto our lead characters, which we're going to generate here. One of the things I'm actually wrestling with is, again, I'm speaking hypothetically. I don't want to give the idea that I've already got this sorted out or anything, but how about this? If I got Gary Sinise as a regular, and I'm paying him obviously out of the raise, do we want him to look like Gary Sinise, or is it just, would Gary Sinise's expression, all of his micro expressions, his voice on some other character be good enough? I don't know. But I'll tell you this: $3 to $4 million for 8 episodes of a really good-looking sci-fi series, especially with the really hard sci-fi. That is not a tough hole to climb out of. I also talked about we'll do auditions for the Strata crew and all this. One of the things that we can do at certain donation levels, as I mentioned before, is you can just send a selfie, and depending on how much you invest, at a certain level, you can send a selfie in, and you're an extra. You appear you appear in a featured background, you're somebody selling hot dogs. If you come in at a higher level, maybe you're a somewhat recurring character. Maybe you're the guy who is second engineer or something like that. And that doesn't cost us anything. So all of that is just great. And Capuchinados or an AI generated selfie, they're a little more difficult to work with, but look, if you want to come in at that level and you want to be that character like in a role-playing game, I can generate the faces for you. Tell me what you want. I want to be 45 years old. I want salt and pepper hair, and I want to look like this. We'll generate 30 images. You pick one, and that's the one we'll use, and so on. The other thing that I mentioned, and I understand that ChatGPT's purpose is to butter you up and make you feel good, but several times ChatGPT said, you really understand this on a level that most studio executives don't. That's not a high bar to clear. But the thing that ChatGPT really said was just a really brilliant idea, if I do say so myself, is crowdsourcing the world building, crowdsourcing canon, which we've talked about many times. If you're an investor, you could be we could present to you a look at this universe, and you could say, I want to develop this moon. We talked about this last Monday. Or I want to develop a pirate organization or a mega corporation or something like that. And we'll say, knock yourself out. If we accept it, then you'll get credit for it in the episode which it airs, and that's it. But the amount of fan engagement that generates is really actually incredible. Now, some people have asked about the video game. What I think we'll do in the beginning, I need to talk to them about this, but what we'll do, I think, in the beginning, although, there's so many game developers out here, and these things are so simple. I mean, really, compared to what game engines have to do, we could do the game in a way kind of similar to Star Citizen, except it would work. And basically, at the very least, we can take Space Engine, we will give you a file, that file will be updated on a weekly basis or whatever, and you just drop that file into your Space Engine game, and once you drop it in, all of the planets, we're using real-world star systems, all of the procedural stuff will be there, but the planets will have their correct names, we'll give much higher quality texture maps, and you'll be able to just fly around and see the entire universe. And then phase 2 would be, okay, now we're gonna incorporate multiple people on the same platform at the same time, because the engine itself is really, really simple. All it does is lets you travel from here to there. You get to travel around the universe and see this stuff. Then the second iteration would be space combat based on the space combat in the game, and you just work your way up. Just work your way up. Mostly it would be kind of a navigation kind of a thing, at least in the beginning. But vector-based space combat is pretty simple. And we're not going to try and be Star Citizen, because that thing is damn near $1 billion, and we are not going to be trying to be that ambitious. But we will get a significant number of Star Citizen players, if for no other reason than the TV show. Final thing I want to say about the crowdsourcing thing is, about the open source for the lore. I want to make all of the assets that we use in the colonies available for everybody. So in other words, if we have a bunch of spaceships that are freighters, let's say, we'll just release those freighters as, I forgot what type of file it is. It's a 3D file. It's an FD. We're just going to have it. You want this freighter? It's available on the website. Download it, because what I want to encourage is I want to encourage fan-based fan films. I want fan films, content, content, content. So if somebody wants to, if this universe starts getting going and developed in something, and somebody wants to do either use AI or live action or CG, and they want to tell a story about what happens on the fourth moon of this planet and so on, knock yourself out. Here's the spaceship, no charge, no nothing. Go for it, man. Go for it. It's going to be open source with the filter. That part is essential. And then we will basically have, hopefully have, people generating their own content, and we will have something like a seal of approval. It will be something like a lower third that appears just in the corner, and you'll show it to us. And if we think it belongs in the universe, we don't care really how good it is or how bad it is. But if you keep it so that it belongs in our universe, we will give you the like a PNG file, and you'll be able to put it in your corner, and your story will be part of the universe canon. It'll be canon. And I've never heard of anything ever, where the fans are able to generate canon. And that to me is really big, really big. So we have to have the filter, because otherwise we can't have people going to Planet Hello Kitty and then deal with all of that. Can't stop it, but it it's it is what it is. Damien, I know I missed a super chat there. I'll get to that in a second. Bill, serious question: can I be in the pilot? If so, I can play a lecherous rock star. Haha. Well, if I have a lecherous rock star, yeah. If you want to send me a picture, we can use your face, and of course, we can always take your face and we can slim it down, or we can we can make you look however you want to look. And yeah, so Marisha says, will TSL members be considered for staff positions for things like post-production marketing and other paid roles? I will certainly, I'm going to hire the best marketing people that I can get. The most important thing in terms of the success of this, it'll go a long way towards investor confidence, but we all know each other by now. The most important thing is that the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to, now, Airtechie says you'll need a continuity czar. That kind of thing for Stratosphere Launch folks is a no-brainer. No-brainer. But the first person we hire is an executive producer who has absolute authority over me. And the arrangement has to work like this. I have the final say on creative control for the show. But the executive producer has the final say in terms of the budget and the schedule. So if I decide that we have, or if the production company, the producers and so on, if the production schedule says we've got 2 days to make these 4 shots that use this scene, and I say, I'm just not really happy with it yet. I think we need to spend a couple more days on it. I need to have an executive producer that says, no, this is good enough. I know you see a pixel that you don't like, but it is good enough. It's going in. We're going to stay on schedule. And if it turns out we get ahead of schedule at the end, then I'll let you go back and try and rework it. But right now it's good enough, because this is how you destroy budgets, is all of this. Marisha says, what happens if the executive producer says you need a talking dog? I think you missed the part where I said I have complete creative control and they have complete budgetary and schedule control. So what that basically means is I get to do whatever I want to, so long as I stay on budget and on time. And I know that I am not the guy to be responsible for the money or any of that stuff. And I pick the EP, and I get to fire him if I don't like him. But I don't get to fire him because I'm not the stupid I used to be. I'm not stupid enough to fire somebody who's keeping me on budget and on schedule. Yes, so Bill's the visionary and the producer is the executor, exactly. Now, as it turns out, this equity crowdsourcing, there are a number of online services that do this. And I think that that the legal cost is somewhere in the $4,000 range, something like that. We'd start the Colonies LLC, and this is why I need the founding fathers, because I need $350,000 to do things like the legal work, build the website, market the things, do all of these things, and I'm not going to be the kind of guy who doesn't take feedback either. I've done several things on the Colonies where people just didn't really take to it, and I was like disappointed, but I listened, and there you go. So budgetary discipline is the key, and if you can make these things for what we can make them for, especially how I'm hoping to start on the pilot by this January. It's, 6 weeks from now. If I can get probably five other founding fathers whose name will be on everything at $50,000 each, we're going to start the preparing for the first public round in January. What was the question I saw there just a minute ago? 5708 Rivera, you've just given me an amazing idea. I don't know if you meant to. Hang on a second. AI can make 3D models too. Yeah, so I can render a lot of buildings in AI, send them over to Meshy or whatever. Meshy generates the mesh because, at least in the beginning, until the AI systems hit around 2027, somewhere like that is what the current estimate is. Until the AI systems are able to recognize a 3D object and render it with AI technology, I'm going to have to do compositing because AI cannot handle things like rovers. If you want the shot where the rover comes towards the camera, goes sideways, turns around and back, and goes back, it'll come at you with 6 wheels. You'll see the tail end of it, and it'll go away with 4 wheels. So we've got to be able to do the compositing, and this is all requiring money and experts, and we're going to need at least one blender guy. But here's something that I like a lot. 5708 Rivera says, will there be any built-in ads like a SpaceX ship making a cameo somewhere in a future version? I haven't talked much about corporations in this thing because ultimately this is about the success of capitalism, but it's about the success of small business capitalism. The government on Earth, the North American Central Administrative District, is basically what we have today, which is an unholy alliance between the government and huge businesses that make large donations to keep other people out of the market and so on. So we need to have, certainly by season 1, we need to have at the very least a number of realistic, very good looking, well designed corporate logos. And one of them, for example, would be NSTAR Energy Systems. K-Dal Test says, why won't Daily Wire fund you? Daily Wire could write me a check tomorrow and I would turn it down. So there's that. But one thing I could do is, if you have, let's say you've got an insurance company. Let's say you have, you own a small insurance company. You own, Delta Insurance Company, right? You want to make a donation outside of the crowdsourcing thing, put it directly into the general revenue tree. We'll take your logo and we'll put it on a billboard, or we'll put it on the side of a rover, and we'll put it we'll put it there. Well, the legal paperwork will have to be there. But if you want to advertise your company, even 250 years in the future, if you've got Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, exactly. So we can take advertising, which is really mostly vanity advertising or just for the fun of it, but nevertheless, it's fun. It's fun and it's cool. And if you've got a small, let's say you've got a construction company, okay? Let's say you've got A&J Construction. we'll put A&J Construction on the side of a rover or something that's building a habitat out in the middle of the plains. Why not? It's just work that I don't have to do. It's a real company. You put it in there, and you make a donation. We'll figure out what it is, and so on. But what if they sent you a check to put in a DW product placement? If they send me a check to put in a Daily Wire product placement, then I would take their money, and I'd have no problem with that whatsoever. Okay, so as long as it doesn't taint the universe downstream, there we go. If somebody were to, if David Booty says, what's the over-under on Coke or Pepsi showing up in whichever season? If Coca-Cola came to me and said, boy, you got a real cultural penetration thing here, we'd pay you $1 million if you put Coca-Cola on the side of one of your spaceships, I would say, sold. Sold. Because if you're shipping Coca-Cola to the colonies, it looks realistic. Looks realistic. This question is the most important question of all. Steve Young, AOC, says, speaking of unholy alliance, what if Netflix wants to buy you out? I have come to believe that the financial hardships, especially that I've been dealing with for the last couple years, have been a lesson to me, so that I can tell you this, Steve. Netflix and Disney do not have enough money to buy me out. There is not enough money in the world to buy me out. The entire purpose of all of this is so that it never gets bought out and then hollowed out and sucked dry and turned into a cash grab by these soulless, absolutely incompetent bastards. This thing is going to last for generations, and when it's time for me to retire, I will turn the keys of the studio over to a group of conservative filmmakers that have shown loyalty, talent, patriotism, capability. They are going to earn their way into this, but when that happens, it is going to go to them, and I am going to construct an oath. I don't know if you ever saw Citizen Kane, but in Citizen Kane, when Kane is a young man, he starts a newspaper, and he signs this statement of principles, and then he immediately goes on to violate every one of those principles. And towards the end of his life, his friend Joseph Cotton basically shows him the old statement of principles and says, "Well, whatever happened to you?" But we're not going to make this a. We will make, when it's time to. I want to hand over a multi-million-dollar studio to conservative filmmakers. That's what I want to end up with. But when that time comes, I am going to construct a document that is worded in such a way that these principles must be in the show. These principles cannot be in the show. And anybody who is on either the board or whatever who is pushing for some of this is automatically fired. I'm going to do my level best to stop it. Gene Roddenberry would caution you to never hand over your creation. I'm not handing. They can take the colonies when they pry it from my cold dead fingers, but the day will eventually come, right? And so the question is, if Gene Roddenberry changed in his later years, but if Gene Roddenberry were to look at, let's say, Star Trek Discovery and the Spore Drive, I think he would have probably said, no. I might take you up on that, Eric. The Spore Drive, no. But Roddenberry didn't do that. And Lucas sold out. Roddenberry never got the offer. Lucas got a $4 billion offer? And he did it. So, yeah, we're going to have a canon committee, and that is going to be largely drawn from Stratosphere Lounge crowds and so on. So I've got a general question here, and then there's one thing I want to show you, then we'll get to the questions. If I can find 5 other founding fathers, I'm going at this full speed. I'm going to continue to do the right angles because we've been doing them forever, and it's fun. I'll hand it off to an editor so it doesn't take all of my time and all the rest of it. We'll keep doing the right angles. We'll keep doing the Stratosphere shows. What I think will eventually would like to happen would be for BillWhittle.com to be, I'd load all of the afterburners and all the firewalls. I would like to be, and founding mothers are fine with me, by the way. But what I'd like BillWhittle.com to become is kind of like a backstage pass, you know, where these are people who've been around for 15 years or whatever, and the colonies is out there, but you know, BillWhittle.com is this. I don't know exactly what to do about that. I don't know how members feel about this. We've gotten real positive feedback about this from members, but if this thing were to really take off, I don't know how many people would stick around. I don't know if we'd lose people. I don't know if we would gain people. But if it happens, I'm going to do what I've been wanting to do my whole life. Marusha Dark says Colony should have separate website, channel, LLC, branding, exactly, all of that. Yes, exactly right. But that would be a way to reach me directly. Wow. Thank you very much, Ace Affinity. That's kind of what I needed to hear. So anyway, that's basically it. That's basically it. But they cannot buy this from me. This is why I'm determined to do it this way, and I just think it'd be fun. And when I think about all the political stuff, especially all this political stuff that's going on now, and you know, all of this infighting, I'm thinking, oh God, how much I want to get out of this mud and just be up there and just put down, you know, this. Look, the colonies is the world that I want to live in, and I want to make sure it's the world that you want to live in. And I think that's where the power of it is to show people what the world should look like. BillWhittle.com members should get free keys the same way you'd give Kickstarter backers free game keys to download. I am anything that is things like discount on all of it. We'll get it figured out. Porter Chief says, I think most of us would be happy to see you doing what you love and would support most reasonable moves. Well, I think that's really good to hear. So I'm not planning on closing this thing down. In fact, it would be really great because this is a small group of people, but first of all, it's an incredibly smart group of people, and secondly, I think it'd be fun to have sessions where we're talking about, do we want to do this in the colonies? Do we want to do that in the colonies? And so on and so forth. The Gentle Ben says, please don't have any millennial Zoomers speak. I don't want to hear a captain say, well, that just happened, and stuff like that. Dude, that is so important, because that meta commenting on it is so destructive. You know, exactly. You've got this, ensign, or I just love sciencing the hell out of this thing. No. What I will be doing is I will be talking to the BillWhittle.com base, and I want to talk about things like, what is engineer talk? Anybody ever? I know we have a couple people that have served on nuclear subs. I want that to sound right. I want the air traffic control to sound right. I'm pretty good with the aviation stuff, but especially the military. Those military conversations have to have that military ring of truth, and this meta thing that we're going to comment on it, like, look how clever we are. No, we're taking this dead seriously. So there you go. Will the immortality treatments be available? I want to be a surviving Gen Xer. I don't know, Air Techie. I think, as you saw from that one thing I did with the two futures, um, certainly genetic age reversal or regression is a thing back on Earth. But what I'm actually really trying to do is, and this is a little more difficult. I'm trying to show, like I showed in that two futures thing, I'm trying to show, yeah, you can stay on Earth, and if you sell your soul and you climb the ladder of either the bureaucracy or the corporate ladder, you can make enough money to have perfect features for 150 years, and your skin never sags, and you look absolutely amazing. But you have to be owned by somebody, which is kind of like the Hollywood system, you know. I mean, all of this talk about adrenochrome and all this other stuff. I'm beginning to think there's really something to this. You have to be, if you're gonna take that coin, you have to take the knee first. And I want to do something where people are saying, dying and getting old together is not the worst thing in the world. It's actually the best thing in the world. And yes, we don't look as good as these people. And yes, they live longer than us, and they certainly live more comfortably. But every one of them is alone. Every one of them is a narcissist. All of them are drug dealers. All of them are perverts. It is a devil's bargain, and it's not worth it. So, there you go. Oh, Gotham Coach says John Fetterman was rushed to the hospital. I did not hear that. Will I make cameos? I might. If I do make a cameo, it will only be one, and it will be a minor one. If I had to pick, I wouldn't mind being a captain of one of these naval vessels that is, the kind of guy that you see, very infrequently. I don't have the acting chops to do this. I don't have the desire to do it, but I wouldn't mind being able to sit in the captain's chair of a space warship. That'd be kind of cool. So, okay, yeah, it'll be a manageable. Somebody, what was it? And no back chatter on the bridge. Exactly, and yeah. Exactly. It's just not gonna. It's just not gonna go. The bridge is gonna feel like. It's not gonna feel exactly like a sub, because it's such a small crew. But the captain's gonna be the captain, and we're not gonna be having any of that stuff. The rest of where'd it go? So something I liked. Hang on a second. Hang on. I think it was a Marusha comment. Or was it? USS Skibbity 67. Yeah, we're not going to planet Skibbity. But the main thing I want to do, the main thing I want to do, is especially show Gen Z that men and women don't have to be at war with each other, because the women are not. They're not, 304 sluts with 200 body count. They support their husbands. The husband is the guy that has to go out and shoot the wolves, and so they're a team, and they have families, and they have kids. They have lots of kids. So that's that. Now I'm gonna put you guys through something here. And I'm not sure that I'm going to use this at all. But what I did was, as you know, that Two Futures thing I used, Where the Streets Have No Name, for music for YouTube, because that was the thing I wanted. I can't even show that video because of the copyright issues. So I knew from the beginning I would have to replace that tune, and so about 2 hours ago, maybe 3 hours ago, I'd had some ideas in my head for lyrics for Suno, for AI music to do a sound alike of Where the Streets Have No Name. And I know I didn't want the AI to write the lyrics. I could have just said, give me the lyrics for a song about, a planet where everything's really frozen and everybody's cold. And so, no. So I wrote the lyrics. And I think the lyrics still need some work. But I have two different versions of the song. And what I wanted to do was to play them both and have you guys vote on whether you like number one or number two, because I'm going to, like I said, I think the lyrics need a little bit of work. I haven't heard them sung. It's a 1-for-1 match for The Streets Have No Name, but I did do, I generated about, 12, 15 versions of them, and I found two that I like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play them both, and hang on a second, and then listen to them both in their entirety, and when they're done, just in the comment section put in either a 1 or a 2, and that's the one I will work on. Like I said, I'll probably give it a little more work, but you get the idea. On the desktop here. Okay. Okay, you ready? So the song has the same lyrics. It's just two different versions of the song with the same lyrics. I've got to pull the title card into Twitch, but the title card's already set up for YouTube. So give me 1 second to put the title cards in on Twitch, but I'm going to start them both at the same time. Same song. They're both about 3 minutes. Tell me which one you like better. And ready, steady, go.
Gave up the earth, the warmth of the sun. We traded our hopes and our fears, and we gave it a run. We tried to dig out with our frozen blades in the world that we made. You're always alone, yet never apart. You know that you won't ever feel the hole in your heart. Sometimes you feel hope starting to fade. Still so much to do. Our life's filled with mud and hardship and pain. There's times when we feel all we've done has all been in vain. But somehow we go back to the plans we laid in the world that we made, 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 in the world that we made. We're still building and chasing that dream, chasing that dream. And if we get there, we know that's true. There's still so much to do. Still so much to do.
Okay, now, first of all, I just want to be clear. This is not the theme song to the series. This is just what I'm going to put underneath the Two Futures thing. The song for the series thing will be done by professionals, and but this is just to replace Where the Streets Have No Name. I don't plan on. This is something I just did for the first time, and I haven't had any experience with editing, so, and I can just run a bunch more generations. But I was just curious. I kind of think I like number one better, but no. This is nowhere near this being the theme song for the whole thing. I agree, by the way, with Pantarkin. Sorry. I'm with Trinity, number one for vocals, number two for instrumentation. I completely agree. But right now, it's just something I can slide underneath the street Where the Streets Have No Name, so I can actually air that thing. The theme song for the whole show will be pretty cool. But I do like the phrase that we made. This is for the people at Niflheim or Sniffleheim. And people are saying use one for the beginning, one for the end, so you get the whole idea. Yeah, maybe I'll split off the stems and have a look at it that way. Anyway, it was fun, and at least I get to air it. So there you go. And I also told it to do a sound alike of Where the Streets Have No Name. I could just give it the lyrics and just give it like a style, and see what it does with it. So, in any event, that was fun. It was just fun for me to play with. Okay, let's get into the questions here. I've got some things I need to get on tonight. Right angle out the door, among other things. It's a little catchy, though. This is Stratosphere Lounge, although I've been talking a lot about the colonies because I've just been making progress on this pretty much every day. So, just keeping it moving. Here we go. I kind of like intro version 1, outro version 2. It does kind of grow on you a little bit, though. Although that's not the purpose of a pop song. when I was at the University of Florida, they changed the logo on the helmets. It used to be just a UF interlocked letters. And when Charlie Pell came along, they got a new logo designed for UF, which was a circle with a U and an F, and it was really ugly. And the university had already committed to it. And a lot of people were saying, it grows on you. And somebody else said, yeah, but that's not what a logo is supposed to do. Logo is supposed to knock you out. Yes, thank you. Let me get to the super chats. I missed a bunch of them, so let me back this thing up. Here we go. We have a super chat from Kisama. You going to create a trailer to pitch the idea? Yes, that's what I need the founding fathers for. The trailer for the colonies is going for the. I need something to raise money for the pilot, which means that I'm going to do 4 or 5 minutes from each one of the 5 storylines that can then be more or less incorporated into the pilot. But I know what those scenes are going to be. And so I'll go with that. All the things that I do, like I'll refine the aliens and all that stuff. It's all going to live on the crowdsourcing website, so that there's lots and lots of examples of people for people to see. Now, I've not been 100% on this. I've been close, but not quite. One of the stuff that we've done just doesn't look like AI slop to me, because anything that looks like AI slop I take out. On the How Ellie Died, that was really the second thing I ever did, and I let a couple of little ones drift through, and people saw it and stuff, and that takes people out of it. But the main thing is to not have any wonkiness. And one of the things we'll be able to do with the initial money, when we put together the sizzle reel for the pilot episode, which would be Raise number 1, we'll have a color guy, and he'll be able to do the coloring, match all the colors and tones. We'll pick a color palette we like, which is going to be more or less like real color. I got to tell you, I am so sick of looking at movies where, oh, we're in Mexico, so everything is yellow. Oh, we're in the north, so everything is completely desaturated and blue. I don't know, man. I just thought that. Anyway. That's that. Let's see. I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss anybody in. Hang on a second. Yep. Hey, come on, baby. Kate Altex says, want your thoughts on Trump saying USA has no talent to build ships and missiles, thus we must import H-1B Indians and replace us. Applied to Lockheed for years for QA inspector positions, no dice. Man, I got to tell you, I am becoming deeply concerned that Donald Trump has really lost his ear for what the American people want. I mean, I really, the Epstein thing was really hard to take, and he seems to be drifting away. The first 6 weeks of his administration, when Doge was just eating everything up and everything was just going, it was unbelievable. But looking back on it, it's the Epstein thing that really turned. After that, he's been making a lot of statements that just have a tin ear to them, and this is one of them. I'd never seen anybody who was better at reading a room than Donald Trump. But if the country is the room, he is starting to drift, and this has me deeply concerned, because that is his primary skill set, and I'm very concerned about this. So let's hope it just doesn't happen. John Ogilvy with the super chat says at least he renominated Jarek Isaacman. Alex Jones, Gotham Coach said, Alex Jones this morning said Elon Musk needs to come back and work in Trump administration to continue Doge. Elon Musk got better things to do. This is actually really potentially profound. And I think there's a lot of truth to this. Marisha Dark says he lost his conscience whispering in his ear when he lost Charlie. I have heard from people who were inside the Trump administration, and I was absolutely gobsmacked at how much actual power Charlie Kirk had, political power, real political power. He was a recommending an awful lot of people on staff positions and so on, and I think Marisha's right. I think Charlie was constantly giving Donald Trump really good feedback about what's going on out in the world, and I think he's really missing it. Kettle Tech says Whittle's Law explanation. He's not that dumb. Yeah, Whittle's Law is that anytime you see something where the optics are bad, the only explanation possible is that the alternative is worse. So, there you go. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. So here we go. Let me have a look at the questions. We got Broke College Student, Capital G Geek, Bob Neef, Road Rider, Marusha, Eduardo Enrique. These are all really long too. Dylan Stark, Eric Blake, Capital G Geek. I think we can make them if we get going at it. Dylan Stark says Charlie was also the only thing holding Fuentes at bay. See the Groyper Wars. Yeah. I am much less concerned about Nick Fuentes than I was a week ago. Much less concerned. I think this is peak Fuentes, but we'll see. Because it's, he's a shock jock, is what he is. He's you can't keep this up. When he was remarking on somebody sent him a clip of the show where I was talking about him, and I was saying I'm trying to figure out the appeal of Nick Fuentes, and he said, "I'm not boring like you are," and I thought, man, that's exactly it. He's absolutely put his finger on it. Completely, absolutely got it right. He's not boring like I am. I was thinking things through, and that's boring, and so he's an entertainer, and he is, like I said, I think we're at peak Fuentes now, where he's just rolling in all of the attention that he had not been getting. But I think that people are going to find out that there's not a whole lot of there over time. It's kind of hard to imagine following, a guy who's never undone a girl's bra strap. That's a little tough for me to, imagine getting behind this guy. We'll see. Anyway, here we go. Broke College Student. Hello, Bill. None of these points are uncommon among the young right. They're more fleshed out. Speaking of which, more fleshed out arguments that I can provide here due to length. Do you want more questions related to the young right? Many topics not discussed by Conservatives Inc. First claim: GOP engages in minority identity politics and forbids white identity politics while bashing whites, the group that wins elections for them. I pretty much agree. Yeah, he's got it locked. There's no question about it. He is absolutely on a roll. And we'll see how long it lasts. It goes on to say, leadership conferences for women, gays, blacks, Latinos, Asians, but not whites. Token minority candidates are run to try to, but fail to get the minority vote. Winston Earl Sears in Virginia. Ramaswamy might lose Ohio. Claims that different ethnic groups are natural conservatives like Hispanics, Indians, Asians, but they still vote predominantly Democratic, not as much as blacks, but still by a wide margin. Everyone is a nationalist for the people they care about. For Indians, this includes Ramaswamy, Harmeet Dillon, Dinesh D'Souza, Nikki Haley. For Latinos, it's Maria Salazar, wanting amnesty. Jews, enough tension there already. Related to the first claim, Mandami won off minority politics more so than socialist or Islamic politics. So, look, yes, I said it before and I'll say it again. Nick Fuentes is right about pretty much everything 80% of the way. All of his grievances, his actual grievances, are, I think, almost universally correct. the problem comes when it's time to deal with his solutions, which is much harder. There's no question that white people are being written out of our own culture, that we're being culturally replaced. You don't see a single commercial with a white man and a white woman in a family. You don't see they're race swapping everything from the Little Mermaid. They're gender swapping the Star Wars hero. I can't even remember her name now. Rey is basically Luke, except unbelievably powerful, and she lectures him, and she defeats the arch-villain the first time she ever picks up a lightsaber. So yes, there's no question this is happening. It's an ongoing assault against not just against white Americans, but against young men. Young straight men have had their asses handed to them by the pop culture, and I don't blame them one bit, at all. The solutions, however, and the conclusions are a little, they're not quite reality-based. They're designed to get maximum emotional response. To put it in a nutshell, you can have a movement that is a deal breaker. You can have the Groypers show up and disrupt events, and you can have the Groypers spoil elections, but you can't run a winning political movement on rage. If you want to run a political movement that has legs and really changes the world, you can't be tapping into rage. You have to tap into hope. That's where the magic is. Because if you tap into people's hope, then you are dealing with an attractor rather than a repulsor, and they're very different, man. So and hope is much harder, especially in this cynical age, right? Especially in this cynical age. You have to acknowledge that pretty much everything he says is correct. I saw a clip of him right after I saw the clip that he was talking about me, and there was a moment there. When you're speaking in public, there are times when you are talking and then you say something and you realize, I don't know if I should have actually said that. Now, this is not a problem with Nick, because Nick boldly goes where no man has gone before. But Nick was getting really angry, and he was saying, Gen Z has just been absolutely crapped on. The young men have been crapped on. No one ever told us what to do. No one, he said, I think it's nearly verbatim, he said, we didn't have fathers to protect us from devouring mothers. And then there's this moment, and then he says, not me, my family was great, but in general, it's like, okay, not you, sure. It's a tell. And when your entire attitude is, get out of the way, old man, I don't take that personally. I don't much care. But it's not what winners do. Winners go looking for experience. They go looking for people who have been experienced, and they bring it into the mix. So I just don't know if he's got the emotional maturity to do it. Obviously, a lot of what he's doing is just plain trolling, and most people are beginning to realize that. But again, I don't know if you can troll your way into a movement that is a constructive winning movement. You can definitely troll your way into a movement that can ruin other things. No question about that. And it seems to be where he's taken it. But look, man, if it were me, I wouldn't be encouraging my cohorts. Dude, Dave Big Booty just took the words out of my mouth. That just drives me nuts. Yes, if the target audience is the Groyper army and the incels, I would not be encouraging them to continue to be incels. All of us were incels. We didn't have the word, but I never met a 16-year-old boy that wasn't an incel, unless he had a steady girlfriend. you're out just trying to get laid every night. You just go out there, get shot down, come back, get shot down again, and you learn. But Dave Big Booty said what I was going to say, and that is, losers always whine about things, and then the winners are out in the back of the car, banging the prom queen. That's what I think is the appeal. So, there you go. The message is all over the board. The message is just, we're angry and we're going to burn everything down. And when he says, when we come to power, I'm thinking, I don't know, man. Coming to power, you have to be an attractor. You can be a spoiler, but I guess we'll see. I personally think that this is peak Fuentes because he's getting all the attention and everybody's having hissy fits about him, and trying to shut him up is the worst thing you could possibly do. I think Ben Shapiro should be absolutely 100% debating him, like immediately. And the more you deny people who are running on a platform of justified rage. I mean, there's no question that a lot of what he and his groypers are feeling is justified. They're 100% justified. They're absolutely right about virtually all of this stuff. The question is, what are you going to do with it? And he's not. He's charismatic, but he's not. I don't know. I was going to say a leader, but I don't know. There just seems something undeveloped about the kid. Anyway, I'm sure I'll be seeing myself on the Nick Fuentes show. So how's it going, Nick? Nothing personal. You want to talk about it? I'd be happy to. Anyway, next part of the claim. Second claim: to win, the GOP needs to do things for white, middle, and working class people to get out the vote. Low propensity voters don't vote because Republicans don't earn their vote when in power. Yeah, we're getting a lot of disappointments coming down from the top. And the H-1Bs see Indian ethnic cartels in tech, gas stations, and hotels due to large amounts of ethnic nepotism and fraud with poor work output. True for trucking as well. Yes, this is like the Indians that have the commercial driver license and so on, and they're just out there just causing catastrophes. And Trump is out there saying we need more of this. That's insane. Go harder with deportations. People will get queasy if it is a large or small number. Make it large. Yes, he started on such a roll, and it just seems to be slowing down. End foreign student visas for colleges entirely. Not 100% sure about that one, but I am 100% sure about giving very, very, very close attention to who is the person coming and what are their political affiliations. Marusha says he just let in a bunch of Chinese students this week. If I had to pick, I'd be on the side of saying, yeah, I'd be on the side of agreeing with that, about ending student visas for colleges. Look, colleges are finished anyway. Colleges are done. Colleges have been done since 2000. It's an indoctrination camp. You just go there to be told what to think. You get stupider at college. You get much, much stupider at college. And so the whole thing to me is kind of academic. It's over for that. People are going to be they're either going to be autodidacts who are going to teach themselves, or they're going to just fall into the indoctrination mill, which looks like the inside of a slaughterhouse, and they can't tolerate that. And so young men will, I just think young men, instead of blackpilling young men, I think they ought to be basically saying to them, look, forget the whole college thing. Get a job where you have a physical skill and find a good woman and get married. Of all the things that Fuentes talks about, the one I agree with him the most on is the quality of the women out there. It's just the freaking bargain basement, man. It is these. I see so many of them. These chicks who think that each one of them think that they're tens and the purpose of men is to serve them. They're the prize. They're the reward. All men have to do it. No, 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 no. But there are millions and millions of good women out there. And, if I had, like, for example, if I had somebody come to me and say, I'm 20 years old and I think the dating scene is terrible and I don't know what to do about it. I would say this. I would say, first of all, if she's got a body count over 5, goodbye. If she's got visible tattoos or piercings, goodbye. I would say, if there's somebody you're interested in and they're not broken like these 304s are, then ask her if she would like to go out with you to dinner. And go to the nicest place that you can afford, not the nicest place that you have to borrow money for, but the nicest place that you can afford. Now, this is where I'm going to catch a lot of grief. But my point is this, but this is my point exactly. If it were me and I was talking to a 20-year-old, I would say, when you get to the restaurant, be sure to get her chair. Get her chair and then seat her. And immediately Gen Z will say, these bitches don't deserve chivalry. And you're exactly right, they don't. But, if you go on a date and you get the chair for this woman, what's actually going on? A lot of people would say you're simping for them, but I'm not saying that's not the case at all. If it were me, what I would be showing is this date is going my way. I'm the one who's going to determine how this date goes. I'm going to get this person's chair because this is how I was raised. The entire purpose of the dinner is to find out whether they're worth a second date or not. But this is going my way. The one thing that women are absolutely masters at are reading emotions. And you don't have to be, as a young man, you don't have to be rich. You don't have to be good looking even. The one thing you have to have, and people say confidence, that's a little bit broad. The one thing that women are looking for is, do you have a plan? Are you in charge? Who's in charge here? Because if you don't make it clear that you're in charge, then she's going to be in charge. And if the first thing that happens is you get that seat for that person, it's going to knock her off balance. And then you just sit there and listen. And they will talk, and you say nothing. You just sit there and eat your salad. And if they ask you about yourself, just say, well, I'm working on this. They like men who are in charge, and they like men who have a plan. You don't have to have money, but you absolutely have to have a plan. You have to have your shit wrapped tight. You've got to give the impression that you are on your way up. And the entire purpose of this date is for you, the young man. The entire purpose of the date is for you as the young man to decide whether or not you want to let this person come with you on the ride that you're going. I am going from here to there. That's success. Here's where I am. Here's my plan to go there. And I am here to see if you're somebody who I can tolerate, who I would want to come along. If you have that attitude, you don't have to flex. You don't have to have the car. You don't have to talk about the cars. You don't have to do the whole Andrew Tate thing. No, you don't even have to fake confidence. You just have to have a plan, and you have to show who's running this date. And if it goes well, and she's not a manipulator, or she's got this incredible body count, or she's just not some, like I said, some for the streets whore, basically, which is what many of them are. If you really found a really good woman, nice girl, then you You are the person that ends the date. This is important too, right? She's not going to say it's time to go. You say it's time to go. I've got things to do. It's been wonderful. I had a really good time. This is if you had a good time. If you didn't have a good time, look, if she turns into an absolute bitch, split the check. But if you really had a good time, then say, I think we probably better get going. If she leans into it, like, you have time to get a drink or something, my response would be, well, convince me. But you're certainly not going to get laid on the first date. You're not going to kiss her on the first date. If you had a good time, you say, I had a really great time, we should do this again. And then you walk away and you do not talk to her for 3 days, but you don't wait any longer than 3 days. 3 days. You've got things to do, you've got places to be, you've got other people to see. You're polite, you're in control. That's the word. Who's running the date? You are. Yes, Marusha says, ask her about her ambitions. Get her to talk. Get her to talk. She will never stop talking. And the ideal situation you want to find yourself in, if you're a young man on a first date with somebody you like, the ideal perfect situation for you to be in is that when you both go your own ways at the end of the date and you say when you're leaving, the perfect situation is for her to go home and say, he knows everything about me and I know nothing about him. If you can put yourself in that situation, you're well on your way. Well on your way. And one last piece of advice, since I'm dishing out advice and nobody's going to listen to it anyway. When I was learning how to fly in gliders, I've said this a million times, but I'll say it again for the dating scene. Okay, when I was going out to my second flight in gliders, my flight instructor got to be a good friend of mine, and we're walking out to the thing, and he says, Bill, if things go bad up there and you have a real emergency, you're going to revert to your reptile brain, and my job is to make sure that your reptile knows what to do. And I never forgot that, and I applied it to my dating life. And here's how it works. As a young man, you have to practice this and you have to prepare for it. It's like any other kind of training. If you ever hear a woman that you're interested in or have been dating or anything like this, if you ever hear anything along the lines of, I'm not sure this is really working out, your reptile brain, even if you're emotionally shattered, even if you really love this girl, even if you thought this was the one, if she comes at you with that, then you must immediately say, oh my God, I'm so relieved to hear you say that. I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm just so glad you said it, and I've just been feeling the exact same thing. If you really care about her, that is the only thing that will save you. And even if you don't, you walk out of there not only with your dignity, you walk out of there as you win that fight, right? You win that fight. I don't know if we should see each other. I don't know if this is working out. Maybe we should see other people. I couldn't agree more. I'm so glad you brought it up. I was just wrestling with how to tell you. I feel exactly the same way. They will fall out of their effing chairs. They will not know what happened to them. And you just stay calm. And if it was somebody you really cared about, you get in your car and you could cry on the way home, but you will go out of there with your dignity. And I'm telling you, man, that is something that you have to rehearse. You have to rehearse it. You have to be ready for it at all times. Man, was it real? So was actually his little brother for cheat on me. Women used to be virtuous. They're not anymore. Most of them. But you can find them. And most guys are, they... I was talking with Jeremy about this. Somewhere in your teens, I don't know if it's true for women. I know it's true for guys. But somewhere in your teens, virtually every man has one person that they were absolutely nuts about. And it's not even the one that got away because you had no chance at all. And I was talking with Jeremy about this, and I referred to that person as the unicorn. And I don't know a single man that doesn't have a unicorn that, that was the person they were just completely fixated on. And if you're pursuing the unicorn, you will never get the unicorn. And there were so many really cool women that were clearly interested in me, and I just plain simped it out. Nuts. It's like anything else, man. Get yourself a starter girlfriend. If you're lucky, you'll find somebody who's going to be really good to you, and you will be happy. If you're not, you'll get some experience. And you get some experience when you're not on the pitcher's mound, and, at the bottom of the ninth of the World Series. Get some experience. But remember, she's not looking for, she's certainly not, women are attracted to the bad boys because the bad boys aren't simping for her, but they look like they're their own person. And as long as you're the kind of guy who's just sitting there saying, yeah, I'm having a nice time, having a nice dinner. This is my plan. This is where I'm going. And the unspoken part is, and I kind of want to see whether you're worth bringing along. She's auditioning for you. You're not auditioning for her. You go into it with that mindset, and you'll do a lot better. Marusha Dark says, person I'm currently pursuing is not my normal type, but there's something amazing and irresistible about her, and I can't stop thinking of her. Great. That's great. Just find, dude, piercings, especially a septum piercing, goodbye. I know they're fashionable, and tattoos, goodbye. Especially any kind of like any kind of a chest. If you see a young woman with like a chest tattoo or any kind of like ornamentation here, who's that for? That's to impress guys who have already got them naked. Next, hard pass, goodbye. This is the last thing I'll say on this, then I'll get back to the questions. I have been to many, many, many really high-level dinners with really expensive, rich people and some very, very famous people. And I can tell you in 100% honesty that the men that all of these women are after, I've been in social situations with them, and I have never once, not once, seen a tattoo on a woman that was with a really top quality guy. Just never. Marusha Dark says Sydney Sweeney would look worse with tats. All women look worse with tats. All of them look worse with tats. What are you going to do to improve the look of a naked woman? Nothing. That's for them. That's their insecurity. They're trying to put a neon sign around themselves that says, "Look at me." Hard pass, man. That person's got serious self-esteem issues. And I know it's very popular, and I know it wasn't when I was a kid, and I know fashions change, but I'm telling you, I have never seen a alpha male with a woman that had any of that stuff, ever. So anyway, that's it. Greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia from Capital G Geek. Finally employed again and start Monday. It's been a year and 19 days, enough of a mini retirement for now. On immigration, there are people that are paper Americans. There are some people that are paper Americans with a piece of paper being their only real tie to the country. How do we go about identifying and removing them? Not speaking English would be an immediate identifier. There is evidence showing the unassimilated second generation is more of a problem than the first generation migrants. There will be a lot of collateral damage from this, but overall less damage than allowing them to remain. Perhaps all Visa lottery winners and progeny should be removed, leaving only people who were sponsored. To use a medical analogy, when you remove a cancer, you really want to remove some healthy tissue around it to make sure you got all the cancer. For some context, a few Africa experts are experiencing tribal violence in Minneapolis since Omar Feta and Ilhan Omar are both from the Darod tribe, while the recent migrants are Hiwaye and voted for the incumbent member over a tribal enemy. Yeah, that's exactly what we need in America now is African tribalism running our politics. Who's going into surgery? Somebody got surgery tomorrow? Whoever it is, best of luck. Look, you can look at the immigration Roadrunner. Okay, Roadrunner, hang in there, dude. You're going to be fine, and we're all pulling for you. Up until the 80s, if you look at the countries that were the top 10 countries supplying immigrants to the United States, they were England, Germany, Poland, France. They were Western countries. And then Ted Kennedy and the Democrats completely inverted that. If you look at it for the last 2 or 3 decades, they've been the top 10 countries are all third world countries. We should not be taking people from a culture that doesn't have a Western pedigree, because we cannot afford to. It's not our obligation to, and it's destructive to expect that we are going to have to civilize you before you can behave yourself. No. And you see this stuff in England, you see it everywhere, and some immigrant will be raping. I saw this, I think it was in England a couple days ago. This immigrant rapes this 14-year-old girl, and they let her off because he said, "I didn't know that we were supposed to not rape people here." And what's the most disturbing about that is he might be telling the truth. So, okay, we're not taking people who don't know already that you shouldn't be raping people. And we're not taking people that dump garbage into the pond because that's what they did back home. This doesn't happen in European countries. I don't think it happens in Japan either. But China is like that. So look, I need to look up the Caligari plan. So you can take, and I think you should take, the best and the brightest from people that come from a common cultural background, and this is important. The requirements for me are they're from a civilized society already, so we don't have to civilize them. And more importantly than that, when they come here, they have to be coming here to become new people. They have to be coming here to become Americans, and not hyphenated Americans. They are giving up their old way of life, and they're going to come here and contribute. And one of the problems we have was that when you had these wave of immigrants in the past, the Italian wave and the Irish wave, and others, you could have immigrants coming to America who didn't speak the language because you could put them on an assembly line in a factory, and all they do is they just bolt on these 4 bolts on the assembly line. You don't have to be a master of language at this. But the part that's actually interesting is if you look at the Italian immigrants and people like that, they were the ones that insisted that their children speak English all the time. They weren't insisting that the schools learn how to speak Swahili or Russian or whatever. They were the ones who said, "We're Americans now, so go out there and act American, and I don't want to hear you talking the mother tongue in this house." But when those South Africans came over, and it was a couple hundred of them, the left had just a cow. They just had a cow. And these people are not only farmers, they're really good farmers, and they're smart people, and they've got money, and they know how to handle money, and how to build wealth. And, okay. But, I don't know. Richard says, how about a moratorium on all immigration? If your country is a shithole, you have to stay and fix it before you get to come here. Well, that's the fundamental criteria, right? These people, the left the left interprets the Statue of Liberty poem as part of the Constitution, number one. And number two, what that poem says is, it does not say, give us only your teeming masses yearning to be free, or your huddled masses, give us and send us nothing but the teeming refuse of your shores. This is what it's become, is that we have an obligation to accept the least capable people in the world because their own countries are garbage. Well, they're garbage because the citizens there are garbage. if you're coming here and you're bringing the garbage with you, what is this about? Why don't you stay and fix your own country? The American Constitution is not kept in a top secret vault, where the words are unknown and highly classified. It's not so hard to figure out, but it's very hard to actually do. Very hard. And it requires hard work. And look, it also requires forethought and so on. And there are entire, not just parts of the world, most of the world doesn't understand things like maintenance, doesn't understand things like keeping the public spaces clean and orderly. They don't get it. And we don't have an obligation to take these people. We don't have an obligation to take anybody. But I'm married to an immigrant, and she contributes to America, and she's an American citizen. And she's an American citizen because she studied, and it took us 6 years, and she knows more about how this country works than 99% of the native-born Americans, and she's very proud to be an American, and I'm proud. I'm very, very proud of her as a citizen. But look, I'm a passport bro, man. I when I was dating in Los Angeles, people would say, what's that like? And I said, well, that's simple. The men are weak and the women are crazy. And I just had enough of it. Natasha's the most feminine person I've ever met, and she has worked her ass off, and she loves this country, loves it. And I would trade all of these anti-American Americans. I'd trade 100 million of them for 100 million Westerners who wanted to be here to become Americans and give up everything in order to do that. I'd make that trade in an instant. So, there you go. And this is why when they have the immigration raids in LA, and you see the people out there waving Mexican flags, when they do that, I just want to say, why are we wasting time when we just get a bulldozer and just push it back? If these people had a lick of sense, they'd wrap themselves in American flags. That would generate some sympathy. But their true colors come out. That's it. That's their true colors. Okay, I see somebody wave an American flag. I'm going to listen to them. If I see somebody waving a Mexican flag, telling me that they've got a right to be here illegally, you've just saved me a lot of time. Bob Neef. What would you think of a constitutional amendment to limit campaign contributions only to those constituents within the jurisdiction of office being voted on? My first reaction is that freedom is freedom, and you should be able to spend your money wherever you want to. But there's a case to be made for that. The intersection of government and the people, government has coercive power over people. And you could make a case that you shouldn't be able to influence the politics of other people's candidates. That is worth having a debate on. I don't have. It's Bob. That's an interesting idea, and I need to think it over. Sometimes something sounds good, and then there are unintended consequences. But I certainly don't have any problem with it initially, in terms of like, oh, that's outrageous. So we'll see. Road Rider. Will Senator John Fetterman be the vanguard of bipartisanship? Lots on the right mock John as his recovery from a stroke, the way he dresses, but he seems genuine in his latest positions, even to the detriment of his career in politics, at least as a Democrat. I was one who privately mocked Fetterman during his recovery, kind of ashamed now. Does he seem genuine to you, or just another opportunistic politician? No, I think he seems very genuine to me. When Fetterman recovered from his stroke and was making sense, he wasn't agreeing with me on everything, but he was making sense. I said, maybe the solution is just to knock every Democrat on the head hard enough to knock them out for an hour and see if they recover sane. because he clearly did. Clearly did. He, Marisha says he's a smart and decent dude. He seems like a decent guy. He didn't seem like that before that. So the question now is, does this apply to other people? Yes, a lot of people said he was rushed to the hospital today with heart issues. He collapsed today. I wish him well. I would never have wished him ill because I just don't think that's. It's not a nicety. That road leads to hell. Wishing people were dead because you disagree with them is not a way to live. So I would never wish him. I would never wish him to die. And there are some people who really deserve it. But even then, in the case of somebody like Hillary Clinton, I wouldn't wish that. It wouldn't break my heart, but I wouldn't wish it on people because I think it's a very dangerous place to be. But Fetterman actually seems like a smart and decent guy, and I hope he's comes through. I hope he's fine. I hope he's okay. Got a super chat over here from Cadel Tex. How many times does a politician have to rug pull you to realize that none of them ever wanted to fix things? Romney, Christie, Trump, Pence, Cruz, etc. I am rapidly I am becoming seriously alarmed about Trump. I think Trump is very susceptible to his inner advisors. I don't think he trusts a lot of people, but I think that the people who he does trust have a lot of influence on him. And what people said earlier about Charlie being kind of a Jiminy Cricket, whispering in his ear, not so much telling him what to do, so much as telling him, look, this is what's real, Mr. President. This is how these people really feel. And, help him read the room. I don't, it's completely nuts to say that in the 2024 election, conservatives either should have sat it out or voted the other way so that things get worse. That's just nuts. Trump has reversed a lot of things already, and he's got another 3 years to go, which really means we have another 1 year to really lock everything that we can into legislation and not just executive orders. I don't share the suspicions about Kash Patel or Dan Bongino, although Dan's been awful quiet lately. There's nothing about the Taylor Robinson thing that seems like inherently impossible. I've never heard anybody talk about this, but the big contention, of course, was that they say that Charlie got shot with a .30-06 round, but it was his grandfather's rifle, and I've not heard anybody say whether or not it was his grandfather's ammunition. Because if the ammunition is 80 years old, doesn't that significantly reduce the power of the round? I mean, it just seems to me like somebody should at least be asking or at least answering that question. In other words, if the FBI is going to say that Charlie's neck stopped the bullet, which is possible but unlikely in terms of the power of a .30-06 round at that range, but if it turns out that he was shooting his grandfather's rifle with his grandfather's ammunition, then this becomes much more straightforward, right? Straightforward. Not necessarily everybody's saying. So the ammunition doesn't degrade over decades like that? Okay. If stored reasonably, World War II ammo was just fine, though corrosive primed. Was it a World War II rifle, or was it I don't know. Capital G Geek says I've shot World War II surplus .30-06 through 12-inch trees. Okay. Yeah. That was just something I was curious about. But they need to do a much better job of explaining this stuff. Even if it's his grandfather's ammo, doesn't mean it's old. Okay, well, then I was that. It was a car 98 that was converted to 30-06. Okay, well, I'm certainly happy to admit that I'm wrong about that, but I'd never heard it addressed before. Let's see. Marisha Dark, and then we got a Eduardo, then we got a Dylan, then we got a Eric, and then we got a Capital G Geek again. We're not going to get through all of these. I'm going to do a Marusha and I'm going to do an Eduardo. And if the rest of you can move your questions forward, that'd be great. I just took a lot of time. I could feel my voice going. So I'm just going to get these two. So Marusha Dark, topic, political science and color revolutions. Recently read this fascinating book called The Machiavellians by James Burnham. It's a bit hard to summarize and still do it justice, but it was extremely eye-opening in the way that something like The Fourth Turning was. Can't recommend it highly enough. A few key takeaways. There's just a lot of block quotes here, and I can feel my voice going pretty fast here. I'm trying to summarize this. Marusha, if you can ask that again, I'll just read the third one. Burnham makes a very compelling case that regardless of what political system is in place, there is always an oligarchy at the true heart controlling things. It might take the form of bureaucrats, aristocrats, nobles, union reps, guilds, or duly elected senators, but minority rule is inescapable. At best, we can only steer it to work for the benefit of people and to align their incentives with ours. An in-depth proof of all this is detailed in the book, but it's too long to recount here. And they asked me to comment on the idea that no revolution in history was ever grassroots. Every last one of them was, in fact, a color revolution. I don't know what that means. Orchestrated, fomented, or at least contained and channeled by an oligarchy of intellectuals and wealthy elites, funding and breathing life into it behind the scenes, yes, sadly, including our own. Well, if our American Revolution was the product of an oligarchy, it's certainly the only one in history that was open and upfront about it. All of the founding fathers were, virtually all of them, were people that were the ruling class. It's the only top-down revolution in history, the American Revolution. That's what makes it remarkable. These are people that had something to lose. These people weren't doing the revolution in order to gain things. They were doing the revolution because of ideals, and if they had failed, they would have all hanged. Instead of been the governors and the Lord Marshals of this or whatever. So I still think the American Revolution is completely unique, and I am going to hold that belief until either I die or somebody makes a really compelling argument. And you know what? I can feel it going fast here. This is a real long question from Eduardo Enrique as well. So, Eduardo, if you can save that for Thursday, if you can, everybody below that, Eduardo, Dylan, Eric, and Capital G Geek, if you can bump them to next Thursday and just put second time asking, I'll get to them first because I'm just a croaking away here. Okay, so I think that'll do it. And I've got right angles that I have to get online and all the rest of that stuff and finish putting together this more detailed version of the crowdfunding thing. But things are going ahead, man, and I'm moving fast on this. And I'm really excited. I'm real excited about getting up in the morning and getting on this stuff. So I'm not going to take no for an answer. We need 6 people at 50K, and virtually positive I've got one, and it's not a huge hill to climb. What, Bill Whittle's not allowed to have weakness? I'm nothing but weakness. I'm an old lesbian who sits in the chair and talks about boring stuff, and I'm damn proud of it too. So this show is made possible by the members of BillWhittle.com. and who beyond my ability to thank after 15 years or whatever it's been. So, it's been great. I'm looking forward to moving into a realm where I get to use all the tools in the box for a change. So there you go. Yes, Dave Boutte and I are both lesbians trapped in a male body. That's why I give off all this lesbian energy. And as far as the age goes, there's no denying that either. I had to like sprint across like a 4-lane street, at a little break in traffic, and I just had to break into a jog, and it sounded like each one of my knees was a waiter that had this enormous plate of dishes, and it just went over. Every step I took was like ka-ching, ka-ching, just. I remember when I had cartilage. Sucks, just sucks. But it's better than being horizontal. So there you go. Yeah, it was. It's a sound effects library. Is what it was. All right. Anyway, that'll do it. So thanks for being with us, and we will see all of you guys on Monday night. And I think we should have some more progress on some of these things. So that'd be great. Until then, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.